Peace, Black Butterfly. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming in, moderating. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. 1 2. If you can hear me, can you give me a 1? 1 2 1 2. Thank you, Black Butterfly. Hopefully I'm coming through. Peace. Thank you, Danny. Peace, Poise and Polish. Thank you. Thank you, Black Butterfly. Okay, let's see if we can get my camera going. All right. Peace to the world. Thank y'all for coming in, hitting that like. Thank you. Thank you. So, and before I begin, let me acknowledge, and if I forget, I want to thank Raekwon. That was a name that came through on my Cash App for the last broadcast. Want to thank Golden Timeline. I want to thank Terry. I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't miss anybody. Let me make sure. Just want to give a special thanks for sending the love through Cash App on the last broadcast. And I want to make sure I'm trying to figure out how do you go to where if I forgot anybody, I will come back and acknowledge you. So please don't my charge it to my head, not the heart, you know that. But thank y'all for supporting. All right. So we're gonna do a quick discussion here because we know we are right here on the cusp of Uranus making its ingress into Gemini. And I think it's a big deal. And I'll say this, outer planets move slowly. And when we talk outer planets, we're thinking of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They move slow transits. So typically, when they make an ingress, thank y'all for hitting that like. Thank you. So typically, when they have an ingress, well, Neptune and Pluto ingresses, they are slowly developing energies. Even if it feels like they hit immediately, it's not it's not actually immediate. It's something that's been building. So in other words, when they're within like 8 degrees of that cusp of the next sign, they're already showing you what the deal is going to be because that's how they move. They bring in the energy in waves. And that's normally when they make an ingress into a sign, they come in as a wave and then they go back out and then they come back in again because they move so slow, they'll go over 3 or 4 degrees for years to bring that energy in. That's especially more so with Neptune and Pluto. Uranus, I think, is more of a wild card when it comes to the outer planets, as far as its energy being felt, and especially when it's moving into a sign that allows its energy the brevity and the space to just be what it is. I feel like when Uranus came into Aries, no, I don't feel, I lived it. When Uranus made its ingress into Aries, felt rapidly. I think Uranus ingress into Gemini will be the same because it is in air. As a matter of fact, I think it'll be more immediately realized in air. Now, mind you, this is just the pregame warm up. Uranus is not done with its transit in Taurus. So Uranus is going to stick its toe into the Gemini domain and then go back into Taurus for a last time. And I think it's going to go back to maybe 26 or 20. I think it's going to go back to 27 of Taurus. Then it will station direct and it's going to move rapidly back up into Gemini where it will stay for the duration of at roughly 7 year transit. But we're going to get some indications of what comes online with its transit in Gemini. More than likely, though, you've been feeling the intensity of Uranus being at the 29th degree of Taurus. It's the last degree of a sign. And so this is where the sign is the weakest. A sign is most concentrated at zero of that sign because you're getting it in its full breadth. By the time you get to 29, 29 is like the mutable portion of any sign. It's changing, it's waning. It is starting to pass the baton over to the next sign. So when we get to 29, it is literally like in a 4x1 relay, and that um, third leg comes around, they're burning, the race is tight, and here's the handoff. The handoff is the most tense time, especially of a 4x1, because it's the fastest relay you have. This is where the athletes are moving the fastest in the 4x1. So there's very small um, um, room, very little room for error when you're passing that baton and you're moving at that speed. Because what you got to have is this person is got to run full speed all the way through the handoff. And then the next person, the anchor who's getting it, because I'm dealing with the last handoff. The anchor has to take off at just the right speed, not too fast, but not too slow. Extend that arm and get that baton and then take off. And that 29th degree is what we are experiencing, the tension of the baton being passed. So wherever Taurus Gemini cusp falls in your chart is where you might have felt like, ooh. And then what happened is over the weekend, we had the ruler of Taurus, Venus, meet up with Gemini at the 29th degree. So it's like you couldn't get a more immediate expression or a more immediate exclamation point to the energy that was already unfolding. You have the planet ruling the sign where the baton is being passed, and it meets up with the planet that causes rapid change. So we experienced this over the weekend. So for a lot of people, this weekend might have been a little crazy, right? And then now here we are, Venus is in a separating conjunction with Uranus, but we still are in the aftermath or the afterglow, maybe, of this this progression of energy. I'm trying to think what all I want to touch on here. Uh, some things are coming to mind. I'm glad I I'm glad I glanced down at my notes. Hold on, let me grab something. By the way, if you feel empowered by the information going out today, Cash App is $ the Gnosis 77. Um, see them until I finish. Oh, peace, Shauna. That's what's up. Yeah, I hope all is well with you and with your surgery. I'm assuming it is because you're on here. So, okay, let's see. Where do you want to begin? Where do you want to begin, Jamal? Let's see. Where do you start with this conversation on Uranus moving into Gemini? So let's deal with um let's deal with the word Uranus and the first time that well, let's deal with the etymology. Let's do that. We're gonna go here first. Let's do that. Let's take a approach that we won't often see to this on the internet. And soon as my whiteboard comes up, we will kind of dive into this. All right. Okay. Sharing my whiteboard now. And let's look at Uranus. Now, I used to pronounce it in its Greek rendering, but I'm lazy, so I stopped doing it. If you go back to some of my videos, maybe I don't know, a couple years back, you'll see me saying Uranus, Uranus. That's the Greek origin of Uranus, or the Greek equivalent of Uranus, Uranus, which would be spelled Uranos, Uranus. Now, if we go to the Bible, the first entrance in Genesis, in the beginning, which would be Bereshit, Elohim, or in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So here's something that we need to be mindful of as we oh, thank you, Aris. Thank you, Aris, for the Cash App. I don't know who that is on here who listening, but thank you. So one thing we need to be aware of is that when the word heaven is mentioned in the Bible, that even if we're looking at the Old Testament, we must be aware of how that word is represented in Hebrew and in Greek. Greek is used in the Strong's Concordance for reference for Hebrew for the New Testament. Hebrew is the reference background language for the Old Testament. But there's a book that is like $10,000 right now to get. They bought up all these copies and they basically took them out of circulation. It's a book is called Hebrew is Greek by a scholar named Joseph Yehuda. And he set out on a quest in the early 1980s when he put this out to show that the Greek language basically comes out of Hebrew. And that was not celebrated. And they went on a campaign. Like the book used to be $5,000. Then before that, it was 1,500. And I remember when it was 500. And I wish when it was 500, I would have ran up a card and got it. But you can get the PDF version online, but it's just hard to read because it's the same copy is on anywhere you find it online where somebody is marking through words and they got their notations. But either way, you can get it. It's just hard to make out some of the typeface and everything. But he proved that Hebrew is Greek per the title. So I lay that down as foundation before I because I'm going to show you the Hebrew version of heaven and the Greek version. So in Genesis 1 and 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Then we would look towards the Hebrew for heaven, which would be Shemayim. That's Shemayim. All right. And then there are different words for earth, but in this instance, earth would be Eretz. And it is spelled boom. That's a Aleph, a Resh, and I think this letter is called a Zadi. All right. Now, what I did was I then immediately my mind is thinking Kabbalistically, heaven, and this is earth. Because we learned the Lord's Prayer coming up. Peace, Lisa. The book is called Hebrew is Greek by Joseph Yehuda. You'll have to find it on PDF unless you got 11 racks that you want to throw down to get it off of eBay. So we learned the Lord's Prayer. We usually recite the Lord's Prayer before every football game. Junior high, college, junior high, high school, college. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not knowing that that statement was metaphysical, as above, so below. And then if you look at the Kabbalistic tree of life, you know that at the top of the tree, talking front side, the top of the tree, we have Kether, which is the crown, which would represent heaven. And then we have at the bottom, we have Malkuth, which would represent earth. So even in the beginning of the scripture, when it says, in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth, this is also speaking on other levels. the tree of life emerges, the Kabbalistic tree of life, saying that Kether and Malkuth come out of the same birth. Now, so here's the first, so second thing that we gleaned in, or continuation, because I already pointed out, this is as above, so below. And I'm going to show you how in the gematria this lines up. And I'm taking liberty here, but this is what I do. This is a calf. This is a ta. That spells Kether. Has a gematria of 620. Well, Malkuth would be the equivalent of the word, because in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God, and the word was all that. Now, and the word is what came down. So the word would also be earth. It came down from heaven. It's the same thing as in the um Indian pantheon or the Vedic or Hindustani pantheon. You have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Shiva's a giant phallus, and Shiva comes about when Brahma and Vishnu separate from each other. Heaven and earth separate from each other, and their separation creates a giant phallus. And the phallus coincides with the tongue, and the tongue is what we use to speak the word. Shiva and Christ are the same. So the word is the connecting piece between heaven and earth. They're all the same. So then the Hebrew for word is dibber. And dibber has a value of 206. Now look at this. What we got the same numbers. Kether is 620, and you reorganize those numbers and you get 206. As above, so below. I'm building to a point here. Okay. Now, if you take at face value Christianity as a religion or whatever, then it's God sent his only begotten son. From where? From heaven. Where was he sent down to? To earth. Now remember that. Remember that. Remember that. So now let's go back and look at Uranus. And we said in Hebrew it's Shemayim. And I'm sorry, heaven. The word for heaven in Hebrew, Shemayim. But the word for heaven in Greek is Uranus. Uranus. So this is why the video is titled Uranus and Gemini Uploading the God Mind. Now here's the thing. I was first going to call it Downloading the God Mind. But Spirit said, no, it ain't about downloading. You see, downloading means inward. It is something, it's in the word, down. See, when Uranus was in Taurus, Pluto was in Capricorn, and Neptune in Pisces. What are those energies? They are feminine, inwardly directed energies. Even though we associate Capricorn with our public identity, it is still a feminine energy. It's inward, it's private. So we were supposed to be downloading the mind of God from 2008 on. And although throughout that period, yeah, Uranus did go into Aries, but we're basing it on Pluto, initiated this phase we're in now, 2008, is ingress into Capricorn. And then who was the first to then make his ingress into the masculine outward expressing energy? Pluto made his ingress into Aquarius. And so following Pluto, here we have Neptune and now Uranus tomorrow, which is we're no longer downloading. Now you got to upload. It is and so what I mean by uploading, when when I finish this video, I'll put a thumbnail up. And when I go and make the thumbnail, for me to get it up on YouTube, I have to download it from the site I make the thumbnail on. I got to bring it into my files, download into my own files from an external site, bring it to my private downloaded files. Then for me to broadcast it out to the world, broadcast, part of which is Uranus, I have to upload it. Meaning now when I upload it, I'm showing it to you. I'm showing you what I've been working on. That's the phase we in. You are now having to upload. You now got to show your work. You got to show what you have or have not been working on. Now it's show and tell time. So we have to upload the God mind, i.e., bringing it online. And here we have Uranus, which means the heavens in Greek. Bringing that out now. Now, we said that Christ, it says this is God's only begotten son, right? Sent him down to die for our sins. Now we know that astrologically, and if you don't know, now you will know that Christ coincides with Leo because Leo is associated with the heart and the thoracic region of the spine, i.e., that part of the spine that's behind the heart. That's the thoracic region. Now, what does the heart do? It energizes. Now, in the way we are looking at this, Leo would coincide with Christ coming down to earth in one regard. And the opposite would be Aquarius, which is in modern terms ruled by Uranus. Because Uranus is Uranus, and Uranus is the circulatory connection with the heart. Heaven, as above, so below. Now I'm about to jump. Now I hope you're with me. I know Leo is not an earth sign, so don't need anybody coming in the I'm not gonna get sidetracked, but sometimes the content that I put out sometimes very simple messages, just like you gotta know what league you in. Don't leave me basic as I'm gonna tell him that type of shit. Come with some high level fucking thinking. If you're gonna tell me something to correct me on some high level shit. So let me make this clear because people look to nitpick. I know Leo is a fire sign and it's not an earth sign. Context. Only using earth as it representing the the below relative to the above. Make that clear. Now, so I'm about to jump. So you got Uranus, circulation, Leo, the heart, which is the energizer. So all signs have to have a correspondence, something that it is working with. You can't drive your car if you only got one side of an axle. You need both sides, even if they're turning away from each other. To turn right, you need the left tire just as much as you need the right, and vice versa. You need a centralized unit to circulate energy or to provide the energetic power. I'm sorry. But then you need something that will circulate the power. They need each other. Heaven needs earth just as much as earth needs heaven. So I'm going to flip it here because I'm going to go to the generation of people born between 1955 and 1962 just to give you an idea of because what's important about this, because this generation had Uranus in Leo. So we talk a lot about the 60s and all the revolution, but it's just like all this it came and hit me like, what about that little group at the end? This group is significant because they're coming up on the tail end of the baby boomer generation. They're the end of a decade, and these babies born between 55 and 62 are now transitioning into a decade that's going to be a completely different world. And those children born between 55 and 62, I call them the generation of rebelling against the king. Leo, the king, and Uranus, rebellion. So you got this energy that I'm describing of heaven and earth, as above, so below. The heart and the circulation, you have them come together with Uranus and Leo. And I just want to show you, um, Lisa said, I've looked at the US presidents with that generation. Okay, so check this out. To that point, Eisenhower is the president in 55, and he has a heart attack while he's in office. Because what does Uranus do? It causes sudden change, it's disruptive, and in modern standards, it would be in its detriment in Leo, because in modern standards, Uranus rules Aquarius. So whenever a planet is in a debilitated state, that planet, i.e., or credit to Bernadette Brady, who helped reading some of her stuff, help open my eyes to this, and it makes so much sense. So much sense. Wherever you find a debilitated planet in your chart, that's an opportunity to see the other side of things through the difficulty inherently connected to its placement. So Uranus in Leo is opening us up, that generation, to breaking away from the worship of icons. Because Leo is celebrity, icons. Those children who are kind of almost lost in history have a strong Aquarian, honorary Aquarian signature on them because they had something in them to challenge the status quo. And then in 1957, during the same generation, they roll out the National Defense Education Act. Everything is everything. And at the same time, all of a sudden, ADHD appears on the in the child psychology on the records, not by happenstance. To to quell this potential rebellion against uh icon worship and awakening. We're still on we're still on topic here. We're talking about Uranus, Uranus. In 1955, what I'm doing is trying to show you when you can go back and look at key points in history to help you understand the energy that we're talking about. That's the point of this. Astrology is powerfully studied through a rearview mirror. You look at the value of being able to live and keep living is that you can look back over your life. Your life is data. And there's always some astrological significance for every moment in your life. You just got to figure it out. So we're looking back to understand further this energy of Uranus or Uranus. Now, Uranus is a breakthrough energy. It's an energy of taking a new path. It's an energy of reimagining how to think about things. So also in 1955, the National Chiropractic Association began ad campaigns in the Editor and Publisher magazine, quote, to bring the message of chiropractic to the leaders of communication. So Uranus deals with mass broadcasting. Now, a periodical or a magazine, that's more of Jupiter, Sagittarius realm, but we're all still talking about sending out a message, a broad sending out of the message. If you look at the glyph of Uranus, look at this. If you study astrology, when we look at I'm gonna erase some stuff. Hold on. Cash App, dollar sign, the Gnosis 77, because I think we're cooking over here. I think we're cooking. So this is the sign we're familiar with Mars right here, right? But Mars used to be written like this or represented that way. And this one is how you need to learn. When you're learning astrology, you need to learn this version of Mars. Why? Because it is the direct opposite of Venus. And it gives you clues to what Venus is and what Mars is just in the symbol. You know, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It shows the natural um complement and possible conflict between the sexes. You're dealing with opposites, which is what is necessary for life to continue. You need opposites. And this is why Mars and Venus are the lovers, because they are naturally opposite yet complementary to each other. But if you take this symbol of Mars and then we bring it down, watch this. Boom. And then if I add antennae On both sides, I now have Uranus or Uranus. So there's a close connection between Mars and Uranus. It's that Uranus, though, is a more elevated expression. It has elevated it through the realm of thought, and now it wants to broadcast that elevated Martian, because Mars is a very pioneering, adventurous planet or energy. And there's a lot of similarity between Mars and Uranus. But Uranus is more of a philosophical rebel. It's not just fighting with sticks and knives and swords. Uranus wants to fight an ideology. Uranus wants to it's fighting from a higher perspective. It's fighting through air. So that's one thing to think about. So they wanted to broadcast because this Uranus symbol looks like broadcasting. They want to broadcast out a message about a breakthrough form of healing called chiropractic or chiropractic healing. So I just want to go back in time just to because I made the connection between Leo and Aquarius through Christ, who is the sun coming down from heaven to earth, as above, so below. Now, let's get out of the um let's transition. Let's transition a bit. This in the mythology, the Olympian creation, because Uranus and Taurus, we don't astrologically, they don't mix. You know, we can see all of the earthquakes that have jumped off here just the past few months as Uranus is getting towards its end of its transit in Taurus, and Taurus is a slow, fixed energy. Uranus is anything but slow and fixed. It's eruptive, disruptive, right? But but the thing about it though, when we look back through mythology, you cannot study astrology without studying mythology. You always got to keep those in tandem. So there's connection with Uranus and Gaia. Gaia meaning earth. Taurus, because Taurus is the first earth sign. Taurus connects intrinsically with Hathor. I broke that down. I don't know how last year somewhere that connection with Hathor and with Taurus. And so let's just touch on this Olympian creation myth. At the beginning of all things, Mother Earth emerged from chaos and bore her son Uranus as she slept. Gazing down fondly at her from the mountains, he showered fertile rain upon her secret clefts, and she bore grass, flowers, and trees, with the beasts and birds proper to each. This same rain made the rivers flow and filled the hollow places with water, so that lakes and seas came into being. Hopefully, while Uranus has been in Taurus, you have been reenacting this scene that I just read, because this is describing the potential of Uranus and Taurus. Do all that hard energy where you wanted to be free, but you felt confined. You wanted to move, but the energy was a little stagnant at times, and And where you wanted stability, you felt that things were unstable. Hopefully, you've been continuing to shower the earth with seeds because Gemini is where we show what we have been. What have we learned? What have we learned? What season is coming to an end because this is Gemini moving, Uranus moving into a cadent sign, Gemini. This is the transition to summer, metaphorically speaking. This is the transition to summer. And we're bringing it in to spring. So then what have we learned? What do we have to say? How are we distributing our spiritual energy? Because Gemini, the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius is distributive and locomotive. I talk a lot about that axis being about sight. Gemini is perception. Sagittarius is perspective. Sept and spect, those are sight words. But let's take it another level about the distribution. The lungs distribute oxygen. The tubules all throughout the body and the nerves, they distribute energy throughout, just like the highways within your municipality. They distribute the energy or the people throughout that city. Sagittarius is locomotion because the femur bones, the largest bones in the body, help us move the whole entire body from point A to point B. So Gemini and Sagittarius are about movement. Life now is about movement. It is not sitting still, sitting on your hands, hoping and waiting. It is action oriented. This is about motility and mobility. Mobility is movement, motility is the quality of the movement. Uranus in Gemini. Your mind got to be able to move. First and foremost, listen, I don't even really, I ain't even no fan of the dude at all. This dude named Gary V. Because I think he's just he's paid. The influencer is something else. He's paid to help sway the thoughts of people. He's part of he he's just interesting. But I'll tell you this, you can use everybody for information. I saw a video pop up of him saying that social media is dead. It is now interest media. All your words are being categorized and tracked, and keywords are so important because people are looking for what you're saying. Now, I want you to understand what all is. There's a lot in this. So in other words, just doing things for resource is not enough. People are looking for substance. What are you actually saying? Now I'm gonna tell you what's so funny about this, because it is the same people like him who during the Uranus and Taurus cycle were telling people just get out here and stop being scared and just get in front of the camera and such and such and such. Here's another guy, Sean Cannell, Think Media. I follow him. He done sold hella equipment for companies. First, these cameras I got are Canons. I learned about this model, which is the very bottom pro model of a Canon from Sean Cannell. Then all of a sudden, Sony became the camera, you know? And then he'll probably end up going back and Canon, well, we've been looking at it and now Canon's the camera again, and just move people, move people. But his thing, one of his taglines was, you just gotta push record, you know. Um, but now he has changed his image. He's got this edgy look now, and he's got the little new haircut, and he's talking about how people want substance. And wait a minute, you've been telling people for the past few years, just record, just get out there. You don't know what to say, just record. Now people want substance. Gary V, it's not about social media, it's interest media. Now they're hypocrites. They're just paid agents to move the people, but take the absolute value of what they're saying. People want substance. People want to hear from somebody whose mind is moving. I just been sitting back, you know, because it's a lot of suffering of watching um empty da-dun da-duns. Just people da-dun da-dun. And you watch them like, man, you watch them, they seem like they prosper. But people, as life and time is moving faster, people are going to be looking for more substance. And the ability of one's mind to move at the speed of light is coming back online as currency. Coming back online as currency. And so in your private life, you may not aspire to be in front of no camera, but whatever you involved in, dumb shit ain't where it's at. This is the era of high intellect. All these people talking about high conversations and this and that. No, this is the era where that shit for real now. You get left behind by being slow. It's because they're creating spaces for slow thinkers, slow, slow mentalism, dense, thick brain people. They creating all types of places. And this is where we separate the wheat from the chaff. You must be about the business of uploading the God mind. I want to go into this book, Animal Speak, and I want to go to read about the blue jay. Because the blue jay is a pretty bird. And a lot of times they'll pop up. We see them a lot when we're in the kitchen out the back window. And hopefully soon I can come back and talk to you about the pigeon and the dove. The blue jay, for those to whom the jay comes as a totem, it can reflect lessons in using your own power properly. The word jay, now listen, as I read this, I want you to listen for what I've already been talking about. What I just read was the Olympian creation myth. And I talked about Uranus, i.e. Uranus, its birth coming from Gaia. So in mythology, you'll have a lot of the mother and her son slash lover. This is not talking about incest. And I'm gonna do a quick sidebar. The real meaning of parthenogenesis, which meaning self-created. The feminine energy is parthenogenic because if you just study us, all of us come from a mother. And people will use this to try to galvanize women because women support. So people are coming for and they'll play to the emotions of the women, saying, "Woman don't need no man. Woman can just go and lay in front of the sun and create a." Ain't none of us got here from no woman sun gazing and the sun impregnated. That's some bullshit. That's not what it was meant to be intended from the from this. But what it says though, that if we take the very first emergence of life, it had to have been feminine because feminine creates everything out of it. So what she does, the woman, the feminine gives birth to the masculine, and then it becomes her consort to then continue life, which is why in mythology she always has a son who is also her lover. You can go through countless. Ishtar and Tammuz, she's mourning her lover, who is also her son. Isis and Osiris, he's her son and lover. All right, so I just wanted to. So Uranus is the son and lover of Gaia. All right, so the word J comes from the Latin Gaia, which has associations to Mother Earth. In Greek mythology, the union of Mother Earth and Father Heaven, Uranus, resulted in the first creatures who had the appearance of life. This reflects much about the intrinsic power associated with the J. It has the ability to link the heavens and earth, to access each for greater power. The sky blue separates the heavens. This is talking about the bird on the different colors. Let's start here. The black and white markings found on its blue wings also reflect the same ability. The sky blue separates the heavens, white, and the earth, black. This is a totem that can move between both and tap the primal energies at either level. Now, um, whenever you see that move about, that denotes Mercury. And who rules Gemini? Mercury. Mercury is a quasi Christ figure because Mercury has a one, we associate the sun with Christ, and Mercury is never more than 28 degrees away from the sun. So Mercury metaphysically is also Christ, who has the ability to move between realms. This is a totem that can move between both and tap the primal energies at either level. The J is aware of this innate ability, and this is reflected in its blue crest, higher knowledge that can be used. Those with a J as a totem usually have a tremendous amount of ability, but it can be scattered or it is often not developed any more than is necessary to get by. It is not unusual to find individuals with blue jays as totems being dabblers, especially in the psychic and metaphysical field. They know a little bit about a lot of things, and they use that knowledge sometimes to give the impression that they know more or that they are true masters. Well, I'm gonna tell you, this is a sidebar. When I read this, it grabbed me like, whoa. And it always, because I got this book years ago. A brother named, he's from Utah. I can't remember his he sent me this book. And when I read that, it was humbling. So I was like, man, I gotta make sure that I always tell people what I don't know and that I don't ever try to present myself knowing more than I do. That really humbled me when like, this, for example, I got tarot decks, but you notice I don't ever use them on no video. I might show one card because I don't ever want to give any indication that that's my craft. I'll pull something for myself, but I ain't doing no spread for you, you know. So things of that nature. It was a reminder to say and not be afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know. Um, so that really was humbling. The bright blue crest of the J should always be a reminder that to wear the crown of true mastership requires dedication. Now he come back. Now this is reminding us of Saturn and Aries, which is going to be in a sextile with Uranus as they finish. And we just when Saturn finishes its retrograde, when it goes back into Pisces, when Neptune finishes back in Pisces, when Uranus finishes in Taurus, and they all move back, they will be harmonizing. All the outer planets will be in harmony and out in masculine signs. So this is the finishing up. But Saturn, that thing about dedication, responsibility, and committed development, those are very Saturnian words. And all things in the physical and the spiritual. The Blue Jay is a reminder to follow through on all things, to not start something and then leave it dangling. The Blue Jay reflects that a time of greater resourcefulness and adaptability is about to unfold. You are going to have ample opportunities to develop and use your abilities. Just some things to keep in mind. Now, in the Egyptian or Cometian pantheon, we have Nut and Geb, and it's reversed. Nut becomes the sky goddess, and you'll notice the picture of her on all fours. She's the sky. She's the four corners of the sky. And Geb reverses and he becomes earth. But either way, we still see a relationship between heaven and earth. So we've been looking at so long with Uranus and Taurus from a purely astrological standpoint. Or Uranus does not like being in, but hopefully, as we toiled, we were taking the opportunity to plant seeds. To plant seeds. Because even the ruler of Taurus, Venus, which would be Aphrodite, is born from the frothy semen of Uranus out of a sea. She comes out of the frothy semen out of a sea. This is how Aphrodite is born. So here we see the it goes back and forth. So there's a connection between an opportunity that has been there through all of the disruption. So through all of the disruption you might have felt over the 7 years, what did you learn? How did you have to adapt? And especially over these last couple of years where Uranus has been in those latter degrees, how have you had to learn to adapt where you have been more fixed in your life? And out of that adaptation, what new has emerged that you will be able to display over these next 7 years? And you want to look at wherever this falls in your chart. Go, go I think Gemini Brown put up a video where he goes through the 12 houses. So I don't do a good job of doing enough of that. But that's somebody else that I respect. Go check out his video that he goes through the 12 houses, you know, to kind of get an idea of how this energy may be hitting you relative to your own chart. But my thing here is to try to give you a broad perspective of, and a more metaphysical perspective of the energy and the magnitude of it on a collective scale. This Uranus moving into Gemini. Let's see. Anything else that I think the Gary V thing is really big. You know, from social media to interest media. You know, these people, these paid influencers at this level, they are paid to shift the narrative. Because now what he's done is introduced um peace, harmony, and home. This is this is they help shift the language. You gotta think Gemini is also language. So we can expect something new in the way we even communicate. Now, downside of Uranus, it can be too detached to where we become cold. So we got to guard against our communication becoming very robotic. And we're already communicating through emojis and acronyms, and we're not speaking in complete sentences. We're not valuing writing as an art um collectively. So we got to be careful that we don't move into a complete reliance on technology to even help us speak and especially to think. Technologically, we're going to see things just, I don't know, beyond what we could imagine. And what we will be up against is a concerted effort to degenerate the brain more. The brain is the interface between the heaven and the earth. We also got to guard against utopianism and this false idea of a utopia, because what utopia is the connecting piece between fascism and communism. The last time Uranus was in Gemini, we had a worldwide war going on, World War II. And we had the fascist German government, which was going against democracy, so to speak. But democracy was in partnership with communist Soviet Union, giving you a clue. Democracy has always been communism. And communism and fascism are kissing cousins. So what was going on then was a form of Hegelian dialectic. And then amazingly, as the war ends, all of a sudden the new enemy becomes communism, because you have Joseph McCarthy, the senator, who now rolls out with all these such and such may be a communist. This may be a communist. And then they move the people. They move the dial. They move because, again, if you're not using this, you know, and using broadcasting of language, changing the language narrative. All of a sudden, we took care of that guy. We took care of that guy over there. Now the new problem is these people, and everybody completely forgot about the other. And now it's the red scare. Khrushchev and such and such. So these are things to be mindful of. Your ingenuity, your new way of imagining um, communication, a new love for language and words, and an outside the box way of approaching language and communication. Like you need to, everybody should be, this should be the renaissance of etymology, is what it should be. Um, and this is all part of uploading the God mind. You need to be, you don't want to be in a state of flux, but you need to be open to change because things are going to move so fast that you may feel like you're standing in the middle and you're watching the merry-go-round go around at full speed. And you're just getting dizzy. So I saw something in the comment section. I think it was um Pink Petal said, I don't understand the sun and lover. How can this be? Okay, you got to think in archetypal energy, okay? Um but using things, study the known so you can so we can understand things that may seem more abstract. You have the queen ant in the ant colony. You have the queen bee in the beehive. Now the queen emerges. Let's talk about the bee. They bring her propolis. And propolis is something that you can take. It's nasty, but it really fortifies your immune system. Propolis. It's a white looking milky gelatin almost like, and it's nasty. But you can take that because that's what they feed the queen bee. It is the finest substance that bees create. And they feed her. And she's the largest one. But she also has certain bees. I think the drones are the dumbest ones. And I don't know if the worker bees is the worker bees, I think, are the lowest. Then the drones, because I think the drones may be the ones who she chooses to impregnate her. This is to your point about how does this son and lover? She creates them and raises them to manhood so that they can then impregnate her to continue the hive or the whatever they call the bee colony. This is not literal incest we're talking about. What we're talking about, the woman or the feminine raising the masculine, is because every man comes through a womb, but then he ends up joining with someone who has a womb. In other words, he's her lover. My wife is my lover, but she's also a mother. See what I'm saying? You got to keep coming back to the mother, not that particular mother, but the archetype of motherhood. The same woman who can produce children is also your lover. And also when a man gets with a woman, quiet is kept. The woman raises him to a degree. Why? Because Mars innately don't give a fuck about loving. Mars learns to love through Venus. And Venus learns to develop an identity through Mars because she sees who she is through what she keeps attracting and what she has produced. She sees the karma of her production through what she magnetizes. And Venus teaches Mars what love is because he's aware of passion. He's not aware of love. You feel me? This is a whole new pot. This could be a I've been wanting to do the love the love podcast, you know? Um but either way, that's it's a metaphysical thing. Okay. So I don't remember exactly what time Uranus makes its ingress into um Gemini, but it's tomorrow at some point. And so the purpose of this was just to kind of touch on the archetypal correlations here and the metaphysical overarching idea of this. And I'll conclude with this. I almost forgot this. I'll conclude with this. Excuse me. Nature has provided safeguards that can make it impossible for any scientific investigation. Uranus is also the scientist. It could be the mad scientist. To know the nature or to control the mysterious forces involved in these occurrences at the present evolutionary stage of the race. The reason for this is simple. We know what amazing devices protect life on Earth. The whole drama of organic evolution from the beginning to this moment is a miracle of divine protection continued for billions of years against staggering odds. One chance against billions, repeated interminably. Yet that one infinitely slender chance succeeded, and humanity owes her existence to that. We also know that there are defenses that act as umbrellas around the earth. The heaviside layer, for instance, that shields terrestrial life from the lethal effects of cosmic radiation. There are defenses that keep the forces of nature, flood and tide, storm and rain, heat and cold from attaining a fury or a rigor fatal to life. There are defenses that allow us to live unconcerned and undisturbed while the earth whirls through space at terrific speed, with flaming oceans of fire storming and raging in her interior. There are defenses in our body that protect us from the deadly attacks of malignant bacteria time after time. There are psychological devices, as there are devices in ants and bees, that rule the social conduct of human beings and form the instinctive background of every human social order. There are devices that bring the human fold back again to the path of evolution after every departure or digression through the offices of religious teachers, revolutionaries, and reformers. Listen, there are devices that will come into operation at the time of a seemingly annihilative nuclear war. Uranus would deal partly with nuclear advancements to save the race from extinction, for it is meant to fulfill a glorious destiny. In short, we are miraculously preserved and protected from every side and at every moment. But how often do we admit within ourselves that all our life is spent at the mercy of forces about which we have no awareness at all? Often we even fail to realize that there is design in every fragment and every event of the universe. On that note, that brings our discussion to an end. I thank you all for your time and your attention. Peace. Um, PZ. I know that's good. Gita Life. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for once again. Who was that? That was Aries for the Cash App. 8:30 p.m. Okay, I'm looking at. And as always, stay down till you get up. When you get up, stay down. Know the stars to know yourself. You can find me at 720astrology.com. Go on Google, read my reviews. Go on Thumbtack, read my reviews. I'm a real deal astrologer. I'm a real deal astrologist. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that because I feel like we're in a time of great awakening, and I've been positioned here at this moment to help in that process as my journey continues. I take what I do very seriously, and it is felt when you work with me. That's what I'm trying to say. You'll know. You'll know. You'll feel how much labor has gone into this journey. You will understand how I earned every one of these in here when you work with me. And I'm thankful for them. That's why I don't dye my hair. I don't do none of no Beijing, none of that bullshit, because I earned these. These are stripes of wisdom. And that is what I offer through my services, and hopefully is what is being presented through these broadcasts.